Now, I'd like to say at the beginning that I dislike both parties equally, Socialist Party A and Socialist Party B. I do think the Republican Party could be saved. Switching from Kennedy to Rockefeller is like leaving a spoiled diaper on the baby and just changing the safety pin. The socialists in control of our country have no intention of balancing the budget. Deficit spending has become a way of life. And unless we have a grassroots rebellion, it will become a way of death for the free enterprise system, more commonly called the American way of life. Deficits and debts are unimportant, say the socialists. The important thing is to keep the country moving with vigor. And it is toward dictatorship. In a welfare state, the politicians get well and you pay the fare. Somebody said Roosevelt proved a man could be president a lifetime. Truman proved any man could be president. Eisenhower proved we don't really need one. And Kennedy proved it's dangerous to have one. Particularly if he's got a little brother like Bobby. Tax and tax, spend and spend, elect and elect, the people are too damn dumb to understand, said Roosevelt's Schlesinger, Harry Hopkins. Maybe it's time for another Boston Tea Party. If the people are too damn dumb to understand, perhaps they ought to also be too dumb to continue paying for their own enslavement. One of the excuses of the lying frontier is that most of the spending is for defense. Some of our leaders don't even believe in our defense. Billions in so-called defense spending go for foreign aid to the United Nations and other enemies. Other defense billions go to such things as the National Defense Education Act, providing federal funds to students to study such subjects as anthropology and sociology. The increase in non-defense spending in the past 8 years has been twice the increase in so-called defense spending. Total federal spending for benefit programs, $0.2 billion in 1947 to an estimated $25.8 billion in 1963. Welfare. Most of this is vote buying, federal aid, welfare. Kennedy's proposed $98.8 billion bankruptcy budget is $500 million more than the total budget at the height of World War II. Continuous deficits are intended and inevitable unless the people rebel. Mere interest on the federal debt costs us $19,000 per minute, around the clock. Interest takes 10 cents out of every budget dollar. Interest eats up more money than the entire size of the debt in the Great Depression. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution provides that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The Constitution gives the federal government no power or control over agriculture, health, welfare, labor, dams, and other public power projects, education, unemployment, or housing. We can't have a socialized agriculture without having a socialized America. Kennedy said agriculture can't exist half slave and half free, so they are to enslave the other half. I think one of the reasons we're in the difficulty we're in is that certain segments of our society haven't realized that freedom is one ball of wax. A lot of doctors have just now waked up to the fact, when their own ox is gored, that if we have socialized agriculture, we are going to have socialized medicine and a socialized America, and vice versa. We are going to win or lose the fight for constitutional government, for our republic, on a broad level. You can't win it on one front. Freedom is one ball of wax. Socialism is planned tyranny by the few. It means government ownership or management of banks, railroads, power, newspapers, television, radio, schools, steel, automobiles, and you. Most of us are against socialism, if it's called that. I live in Nashville, the heart of the TVA. Virtually everybody in Nashville is against socialism. As far as I know, there has never been any action by any civic organization in the city of Nashville, any newspaper, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, any organization opposing any raid on the federal treasury for the city of Nashville. Now, we're against Pasadena getting anything. We're trying to get there to trough ahead of you. Middle of the roader, Norman Thomas, six times candidate for President of the United States on the Socialist Party ticket, said, quote, "The American people will never knowingly adopt socialism. But under the name of liberalism, they will adopt every fragment of the socialist program until America will one day be a socialist nation without knowing how it happened." Many years ago, a drove of wild hogs lived in a big bend of the Ocmulgee River in Georgia. They had survived floods and fires and freezes and hunters and droughts. Hunters bragged when their dogs fought the hogs and returned alive. Finally, one gallant man came by the country store on the river road and asked how he could find the wild hogs. All he had with him was a one-horse wagon, an axe, a lantern, some quilts, some corn, and a single-barrel shotgun. Several months later, the hog-hunting stranger came back to the same store and asked for help to bring out the wild hogs. He said they had them over in a pen in the swamp, and people came from miles around to see the captive hogs, which all of the natives knew couldn't be captured. It's all very simple, droned the one gallant stranger. First, I put out some corn. For 3 weeks, they wouldn't eat it. Then some of the young ones grabbed an ear here and there and scampered to the underbrush. Soon they were all eating it. They knew that if they didn't, one of the others would. So then I began building a pen around the corn, a little higher each day. Before long, I noticed they were all waiting for me to bring the corn, and it stopped grubbing for acorns and roots. I built the trap door. Naturally, they raised Cain when they seen I had them, but I can pin any animal on the face of the earth if I can first get him to depend on me for a free handout. Fellow hogs, we've been fenced. We've been had by one gallant socialist. Let's dig out. Arthur Schlesinger Jr. says that socialism is the way to oppose communism. Killer Khrushchev is also on record in 1960 saying we cannot expect the American people to jump from capitalism to communism. But we can assist their elected leaders by giving them small doses of socialism until suddenly they awaken to find they have communism. Socialism is the halfway house to communism. We won't have communism until after we've gone socialists. So a good percentage of the ADAs, the brain trusters that Mr. Kennedy has chosen to run our government, are for socialism as the way to oppose communism. Once upon a time, a hunter cornered a bear in the wilderness and took careful aim at close range. Just before he was about to pull the trigger, the bear held up his paw and says, "Wait just a minute, Mr. Hunter. There's no reason you and I can't negotiate this matter and coexist peacefully. After all you want is a fur coat, and all I'm hunting for here is a full stomach. So let's sit down and talk it over." Well, being a typical American who knows there's nothing to be hurt by just sitting down and talking things over, the hunter agreed. And so they sat down and negotiated. And both did get what they wanted. The bear got a full stomach, and the hunter got a fur coat. We can coexist just like they did, or just like the lion and the lamb coexist. All you have to do is to pitch a fresh lamb in the cage each morning. Khrushchev doesn't have to bury us. Our leaders are burying us. Our leaders are not fighting communism. They are promoting it. The no-win policy of our hidden persuaders calls for improving communism until we can comfortably merge with it. I've seen this no-win policy in operation in various places around the world. It's a bipartisan no-win policy. It's been in existence for many years. Recently, Bobby Kennedy, our Attorney General, the most outrageous appointment since Caligula named his horse a consul, and comparable in other ways, ordered the FBI to rouse newspaper men out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to answer questions about statements attributed to a Steele official. For some strange reason, this reminds me of the Anfuso bill, which is now in the hopper in Congress to make you register your firearms. That's the first step. Once the establishment knows where all firearms are, except those owned by gangsters, the next step of the collectivists is to send gun collectors around to each home to pick them up. It's sort of nice to have equalizer around for 4 o'clock knocks on the door, regardless of who's knocking. The right of the people to keep and bear arms is guaranteed in the Second Amendment to our so-called out-of-date Constitution. Don't ever give up your firearms. As Hiram Mann said, no man escapes when freedom fails. The best men rot in filthy jails, and those who cried, "Appease, appease," are hanged by those they tried to please. Appeasers are people who feed a crocodile hoping it'll eat them last. America has a great mission to perform, to save the world from slavery, to save the world for Christianity. Let's remember I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something, and I will not fail to do that something which I can do. What can one little person do? First, you can stand up on your feet and be counted. Else you'll soon be counted out. You can believe in your God, in your country, and in yourself, and in that order, and then go to work for God and country. At home, in your church, your school, your club, your neighborhood, your precinct. The situation the American people are in today reminds me of the story of the two skeletons locked in the closet. One skeleton turned, the other and rattled. How do we get in here? The other skeleton rattled back, I don't know, but if we had any guts, we'd get out. did we get locked up in this closet? Now, we conservatives are spending a lot of time, wasting a lot of time, I think, arguing about whether it was planned that way or whether it was a series of accidents. Personally, I think treason is the reason. I think to go to the same cashier every day and get short change is no longer a mistake. We've got people in our State Department who have never made a mistake in our favor.